It's a great time to make a 10 hit points peer. They've came out with Poison Dynamite, which can be used to get no XP and kill some NPCs for their drops, or complete some quests with minimal hit points experience. They've made it to where you can hide your attack options entirely so you don't accidentally attack something. And soon enough they're going to be making it to where we can actually use splash weapons to go ahead and get things such as Slayer XP and Avoid Combat XP entirely once again for various tasks around the game. So I decided to make my own 10 hit points peer, but I needed something unique, as always. I needed something that no one else has ever done, and I wanted to showcase this achievement. So today we're going to be taking on Lunar Diplomacy at not only the lowest combat level, but also with 10 hit points, which is something that, as far as I know, no one has ever been able to do, and this is mainly because in episode 12 of my Defense Saga series, we explored a way to actually complete Fremennik Trials without gaining any combat experience, and one of those combat experiences is hit points experience. So before this it was not even possible, and now after this it's not even possible to complete Lunar Diplomacy with 10 hit points, because Fremennik Trials gets you to around 18 hit points from 10 with the quest reward XP. And Lunar Diplomacy has a hard requirement of Fremennik Trials being completed. Luckily, when I had discovered a way of completing this quest without quest reward XP back in that episode number 12, I decided to make multiple accounts, and I even went through some of my older accounts to maybe look for an Ironman that had 10 hit points with no hit points experience gained, and I did find one. I found this Ironman I had used whenever trying to complete the feud, back whenever I had used the Vengeance accounts and Cabbage Cape with that ridiculous method of healing my other account with other alts after being teleported off of Tutorial Island. This was a failure of the feud quest account, but I had many of these and it had a head start. It had the feud started up to the last step of the quest. It also had 30 thieving, and once again it had 204 HP XP till the next level, being no HP XP gained. So I decided, let's use this account and go ahead and complete Fremennik Trials on it as an Ironman without hit points experience. But before we build up the 10 HP Ironman further, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's video, and that is Rocket Money. I recently found out I was being charged every month for Apple TV Plus. Yeah, Apple TV Plus. I think I accidentally signed up for this whenever I got my Apple iPhone or something, and I don't even know what happened. I just have been paying for it for over a year. And with Rocket Money, I was able to discover this subscription I had been paying for and cancel it as soon as I saw it. Rocket Money is an all-in-one finance platform that helps you save more and spend less. It allows you to manage your subscriptions, lower your bills, build a custom budget, and grow your savings all in one singular place. I'm mainly using Rocket Money to cancel unwanted subscriptions, as me and my wife have tons of these. I subscribe to multiple royalty-free music sites, I subscribe to multiple video editing software, as well as just our household subscriptions. There's over 20 subscriptions in total that I'm trying to manage, and it's a lot to do one at a time. Not only this, Rocket Money allows you to lower your bills, set budgets, and monitor your credit. It's an amazing financial tool that allows you to set up smart savings as well as grow your net worth, and you can see that right on the app. So if you want to save more and spend less like myself, join the 3.4 million members using Rocket Money today. I've got the hookup as well. Go to rocketmoney.com/Rendi or click the link in the description to get started for free. You can also unlock even more features with premium. That's rocketmoney.com/Rendi to get started for free. Okay, so I had a little problem here starting Fremennik Trials, much less completing it on a pretty much fresh Ironman account. Ask Aladdin's node inside the Fremennik Trials quest cost 5k, and I need multiple of those. So I went ahead and went to Deep Wilderness and grabbed some steel plate legs, then went back to Al-Kharid plate leg shop, and I sold those steel plate legs for around high alch value, allowing me to get an easy starter base of around 90k coins, a little bit more than I needed, but enough to cover the cost of Ask Aladdin's nodes. So like we saw in episode 12, I went ahead and wrapped the merchant's portion of the Fremennik Trials quest multiple times and got multiple exotic flowers. I had to get the exotic flowers back to Sigmund as fast as possible. I did this through death piling and force dropping the flowers in the ground. You can see more on the exact method of this in my episode 12, which I'll link in the description below. Once I had the flowers on the ground though, I only had an hour to get these flowers back to Sigmund, and this account had no good teleport methods, being a pretty much brand new Ironman with 10 hit points. So what I would do is I would start the Giant Dwarf quest, and from there I was able to go ahead and use the mine carts from Grand Exchange to Keldagram, then run through the boat and travel outside the area to the Fremennik Trials quest, handing in one exotic flower at a time through this long method. This took about 45 minutes to hand in 9 flowers, which 9 steps of the Fremennik Trials quest completed that quest without the XP. Like I said, we only had about 15 minutes to spare, but with this nice transport method that required pretty much no GP and a way back to Lumbridge by dying to the guards here, I was able to get these 9 exotic flowers turned in and complete the quest, therefore with 0 hit points experience. Now our account truly had begun. It was a 10 hit points pier with Fremennik Trials done. That is the only hit points rewarded quest, so I can now go ahead and shoot for the other requirements for Lunar Diplomacy and see how hard this quest line is and how to get the required stats on a very unique account such as this. Luckily, we had some money left over from the Ask Aladdin escapade of gathering all that coin from steel plate legs, so I could invest in some ruins and start splashing because I needed 65 magic on this account if I was ever going to complete Lunar Diplomacy, as that's a hard requirement, no boosts allowed, and once again we're going to be trying to do this at the lowest combat level possible. Alright, so the amount of money I have left on this account is really not a lot, and I've already used it on just a few thousand mind runes for splash XP. That's going to get me nowhere close to even 55 magic, much less 65. And why I say 55 is because we can high alch in the wilderness for more profit and more GP later on. High alching on this account is going to be great for making money because there are 2 things I'm going to need money for on this account, and that is 1, a dwarf cannon, because I'm going to be needing to cannon a lot of NPCs in quests to avoid hit points experience, and for 2, more runes, because once again I do need to get my magic level to 65 without any hit points experience, which requires either high alching, splashing, teleporting, something like that. So I want to start making income as fast as possible on this account, hopefully passively while I'm doing other things such as quests, because this account has a lot of quests to get done. So I'm going to be going for Gertrude's cat quest pretty early on, and I'm going to be raising full-grown cats for death ruins to be exchanged in West Arty. Now to get into West Arty, I'm going to need to complete Plague City quest, possibly even Biohazard quest. But luckily for me, I already had planned to do these things anyways, because I wanted Biohazard quests done for not only the Plague City mining XP, which I'll be using towards my Lunar Diplomacy 60 mining requirement, but also because I just want the Arty Cloak for a much better teleport, as right now my only teleport on this account is a Chronicle. So we're going to be going for the Arty Cloak, as well as the mining XP from Plague City, as well as eventually the mining XP as well from Doric's quest, and the mining XP from the dig site quest. So what I'm going to be doing is killing this NPC on an alt account that's also partially through this quest, while then manipulating the dialogue here and clicking through it as soon as the NPC dies. The NPC then thinks it's me that's killing it, and therefore will give me the key. Now, even if I had a cannon, I could not kill this NPC in Biohazard quest, so ever since Song of the Elves came out, all of these quest NPCs in the entire Song of the Elves quest line are pretty much immune to cannon fire, as well as poison, I believe, too. They're immune to a lot, but fortunately for us, they're not immune to dialogue manipulation.
Oh! Oh my god! Oh! Oh my fucking god!
With Plague City required for Biohazard and all of these other quests I mentioned earlier, this should put us at about 33 mining, which is a huge head start to mining, as the earlier levels are some of the slowest there are. So we can go ahead and start with an Addy pickaxe and mine from 33 to 60 mining eventually, and these quests will get a lot of that out of the way. Unfortunately though, the dig site quest requires 10 herb lore, and I tried to look if there was a way around this. Unfortunately there's not, which this also means I'm going to need to complete Druidic Ritual to get herb lore up. So we need Druidic Ritual quests again and again and again, and I think the best way to complete this quest is to get Dwarf Cannon quest done. Get the money for the cannon first so we can kill the bear and possibly rat for the raw rat and raw bear meat. Now the raw chicken and the raw beef can be acquired through shops, so I don't actually have to kill those NPCs. And I also had another plan to make money from high alching, but once again that requires Druidic Ritual, so I wouldn't be able to get the money until after I already had the money anyways for the massive cannon purchase. I also need to complete Rune Mysteries, a simple quest but something that needs to get out of the way because it is required for one small favor, which once again I do plan on using for defense XP. I also want to train woodcutting because 55 woodcutting is required for Lunar Diplomacy, so I might as well get a head start on that. All I have to my name is a steel axe from Bob's Axes, but we're going to make it work because luckily forestry came out this week and there is a lot of people in the forestry worlds. So while I'm questing, I'm just paddling along, and if I see an event in the path of where my character has to walk, it has to walk a lot of places, right? I can just go ahead and do that, and bam, there's a fat 5k XP drops sometimes even for these events in the first week. This was before they actually fixed the XP drops for lower level woodcutting, and nowadays it scales, but fortunately I got into this forestry on the early game and was able to knock out 55 woodcutting relatively quick. I then went to Willows and Draenor to finish off that woodcutting level, and I could even purchase a log storage backpack, which for some reason I bought even though I didn't need. Next, I would focus on getting 50 fire making for poison dynamite, as eventually I would need to use poison dynamite on some NPCs inside quests which are immune to cannon. And I'm doing this by hopping worlds quickly after lighting 3 fires at a time in the wizard's tower. This is kind of going to be a long grind, being about 3 or 4 hours just for 50 fire making, but it's not the worst possible thing. Also, once I have 30 fire making, I can do sea slug quests for some free fishing XP, which I believe I'll need fishing as well for some tasks on this account, so I might as well get a head start on that skill also. Another fun fact is I cannot actually go ahead and get poison dynamite until I have the dwarf cannon first, because I need to use a dwarf cannon to get dragon bones, or I could, do gambles at barbarian assault, but who has time for that? We need to get the dwarf cannon to cannon a dragon to get dragon bones to get through the portion of Watchtower quest up until the point you can collect nightshades, and that's going to be able to allow us to make poison dynamite, which means, yeah, we need cannon, then we can get poison dynamite. Cannon is such a weird prereq for some of these quests and even partial completion of quests that I didn't even think about before creating this account. I was able to finish off the fire making levels with some of the willows I actually chopped earlier from forestry, and now I had my 50 fire making requirement done. I did some more quests, got some XP lamps from X marks the spot, and decided to put them on attack, as I would want some accuracy rolls for some of these quests when I eventually did have a cannon. I also did get 8 attack at dummies before I used these lamps, and then went all the way to Biohazard Camp and kicked those dummies for a few more XP in attack. Eventually I even did Death Plateau, and it put me at 19 attack, which I thought was a good starting base, as I could wield a black 2H and have some decent attack bonus to roll off of whenever I finally get my cannon. Speaking of cannon, I'm running out of money. The death ruins from cats isn't quick enough, and I keep letting them run away. I'm failing at this task miserably, so I decided use what I have gotten from death ruins so far, which is quite a bit. I've saved up almost 100k from selling death ruins to the mage bank shop in the wilderness, and now I'm going to go buy nature ruins and alch steel plate bodies in the very deep wilderness. This could take hours, as it's very competitive here. If there was no one competing with me, I could do this maybe in 3 hours, about around 200k an hour GP wise. But unfortunately, as I found out, yeah, there are a lot of people competing with me, and eventually I even had to pick up earth staves and alch those because there was just so few plate bodies on the floor, and the respawn timer for these plate bodies I believe is around 20 minutes. So unless you're just by yourself going through an entire world cycle here, you're not going to be making much money. I also used wizard mind bombs here because I was only 51 magic, and that's all I had enough money to splash to, so this worked out perfectly with the money from our cat runes to buy enough natures to further alch plate bodies. And finally, after a couple of trips, I had enough money from my steel plate bodies to buy flat out the amount of nature runes I would need from the mage bank to go from 0 to all the way to 900k GP in one singular session in one inventory. And I was super hyped because now I could go to the lava maze and alch there, and in 3 hours maybe in one singular trip I would have enough money for my cannon. And I got so close. I got to over 550k cash, and I was going strong until a random main who was doing Slayer, Wilderness Slayer at Demon saw me, decided to hop worlds after me, and one-shot me with a fire blast, which of course I wasn't even recording. Now after this experience, I decided to quit for about a month and a half, almost 2 months, and not log into the account again. And the only reason I ever did log in again, because I lost all of my ruins, all of my cash practically. There was nothing left on this account. It was basically like starting over. I decided to de-iron the account, and now it's just going to be a 10 HP pure. Not a 10 HP Iron Man, but still, nonetheless, it's going to be the only 10 HP pure with Lunar Diplomacy hopefully done, as we'll try and further get into that quest line and get the required skills for that quest as well. So now I could cheat and just trade over about 30 mil cash, get the cannon I wanted, get the cannonballs I wanted without having to waste countless hours in the wilderness risking everything I own. And now I could be a little bit more lazy about things, although I still had a plethora of quests to complete and skills to achieve, such as agility here, which I needed 35 for, because at this point I believed I was going to be doing the Fremennik Isles quest. This would have been a cool quest to have done because, you know, not any other 10 HP accounts have Fremennik Trials done once again. As well, it would be 20k defense XP right off the bat, no skill level required to get that at the end of the quest, and it would boost my defense up to around 30, where I could then use one small favor lamps after that to boost my defense to exactly 40, giving 40k defense XP flat. And this quest line required a boost up to 40 agility, being 35, so that was the plan until I got to the actual quest and realized how nearly impossible it was. I prepared myself for this quest by doing other quests, such as Tree Gnome Village to get my attack up, and then I went to Biohazard Training Camp and then trained my range with that new attack and hit on the ogres as fast as possible to 40 range, because I would need some base stats to hit on trolls and troll kings with at least, you know, 40 range and some good bonuses, which I did have because now I had money and I wasn't a filthy Ironman. I already have an Ironman anyways, who needs another one? So now we had stats, we had food, we had everything I thought we would need to do Fremennik Isles quest. I knew it would be a little bit hard and I would have to set up a cannon in some places and use it, but I didn't think it would be anything as bad as what I experienced. I spent countless trips running through trolls and dying, and because I have no friends, no one could help me here, and because I have no mains with this questline complete, no one could help me here. Eventually, I literally used my Ironman defense spear, who also shouldn't be able to access this island originally, and used brews, precious brews on this account to save my account after dying countless times and wasting like 5 cannons and thousands of purple sweets that never even went into my grave. That's because the portion of the Fremennik Isles quest where you have to run through trolls to get to that cave is very bad. These trolls hit a lot, especially when you're 1 defense and you can't even wield the Niatsnat shield or the Yakhide body and legs. You just have to run through there with 10 HP and no stats. But eventually we made it into this portion of the Fremennik Isles quest and found out, well, I couldn't even really do it because you can't even set up a cannon in here, and I would need a lot of poison dynamite because the Fremenniks here are damaging the trolls, and you can only activate poison dynamite when these trolls are full HP, so you have to time everything perfectly, somehow get a hit on these very high defense NPCs and kill 10 of them for this required step of the quest, and then go to the boss and kill that, who's likely immune to a cannon as well, so I'd have to use another 30 dynamite on that guy. So I'm not going to be the first 10 HP today with Fremennik Isles done. That would have been cool, but also not really necessary for the time being, and I can wait. Alternate plan here, I'm going to go do Dragon Slayer for the first few defense levels to get some strength up as well as defense, but still 10 HP. By the way, I'm going to be 65 magic, so this strength level won't affect my combat whatsoever as long as I'm not like 99 attack, which I don't plan on getting anyways on this account. And then I'll go and do one small favor for the remainder, which will put me almost at exactly 40 defense. So would have 2 10k defense reward XPs from Fremennik Trials, then the 2 10k from one small favor, but 18k plus 2 10k, 38k XP puts me at exactly 40 either way. So we're going to do that Dragon Slayer 1 plan into the one small favor for the 40 defense hard requirement for Lunar Diplomacy. So I actually somehow soloed the entire Melzar's maze with 10 hit points and 1 defense and just a cannon and like 3 pizzas and 3 brews. I don't know how I managed to do that. And now it was time for Elvarg. Fun fact is they somehow messed up Elvarg here. You can no longer cannon him, so I'm having to literally recoil him and eat over his max hit every time. So yeah, cannon used to work here. I did it before on a 10 HP account, and I looked back and it definitely was possible. It's been done on other 10 HPs, but I believe whenever Dragon Slayer 2 came out, they once again scuffed the whole quest line, made things immune to cannon like Elvarg here. So yeah, recoils are going to be the only way to kill him. And unfortunately, not just recoils. I tried this, wasted like a half hour eating above his max hit of his HP and recoiling him down to find out he didn't even let me pull his head off his body whenever this happened. It didn't register as my kill because it was fully neutral damage with the recoils. I need to hit at least a 1 on him likely now and use the recoils to get the kill off. Why won't it let me decapitate this fucking thing? And here's where Poison Dynamite, which I talked about earlier, would come into play because Cannon doesn't work on all of these quests in PCs. So I would need to start Watchtower quest, and I would need to therefore do Druidic Ritual to start this quest because once again this is another Herblore required quest. I would start Druidic Ritual, then I would do Jungle Potion for some more Herblore, and finally get back to the Watchtower quest where now I could purchase the Dragon Bones and hand them in, and eventually hit the step where you get the Scavid map and go visit the Scavids, the last one having the Nightshade in its room, which I could then loot from the ground and hop worlds, which believe me is a very lengthy task just to get some Poison Dynamite that I can hopefully use to hit a 1 on Elvarg with my very low stats. Now I'm hopping worlds with 24-inch dynamite in my inventory to do this. I'm picking up 3 of these at a time and using 3 in each dynamite. Therefore, it's a better method than just picking up a full inventory of nightshades than having to go back here and make 3 separate trips. I can utilize the dynamite in my inventory to save some room and just use those 3 nightshade at a time here. Back to Elvarg for our 3rd try. I did not think Dragon Slayer 1 would be so hard, but after a few lights we finally got off the hit with the Poison Dynamite, and I could then recoil the rest of Elvarg's HP as long as he didn't regen too quickly after that Poison Dynamite, which I was kind of concerned about. But I did manage to get the kill after another half hour of recoiling this thing with purple sweets and some other food, and we were able to complete Dragon Slayer, starting our defense grind. Yeah, it actually let me decapitate him this time.
Success!
Now that we have Druidic Ritual done, I'm going to go ahead and finish Dig Site quest, which I did start earlier but could not complete because we did not have Herblore. And I'm going to turn that in for some more mining XP, which in compilation with Plague City and Doric's quest puts us at 33 mining with never having to mine anything at all, which is huge. I'm going to go to Motherlode Mine eventually and just AFK mine while I work on my other accounts. I next started on the crafting grind, and this was super simple now that we're not in Ironman. I was looking at having to possibly blow glass and go to charter ships for like 30 hours for the 60 crafting requirement, but fortunately now I can just buy gems out of the GE and just chisel those into cut gems for a very quick 60 crafting. Now I can also buy runes straight out of the GE with money from my other account, so we can splash at seagulls here with better spells at a much quicker rate and AFK that while we work on the defense pair on the side. Now that I have my agility already done as well as some crafting done, I can go ahead and complete Shiloh Village. I also already did Jungle Potion earlier for some Herblore levels, so that's great. I went ahead and completed Shiloh Village. I could have used an alt to get through a lot of the areas here to make it easier, but fortunately now I have over 30 defense and I have these brews here which make it pretty easy to run through and not die to the mobs. As well, the boss was pretty easy with a cannon. I could have once again used an alt and hit a 0 on each phase and then completed the quest, but hitting a 0 is risky even with negative crush bonus as I do not yet have negative 64 crush on this account. And we have a cannon, so why not just use it? As long as I don't get over 65 range on this account, it's still going to be the lowest possible, well, not even possible, lowest possible for me combat level Lunar Diplomacy account ever in existence. And we're definitely not going to get to 65 range from 40 anytime soon from quest bosses. Finally, now that I have Shiloh Village completed, I can go ahead and start One Small Favor. And this quest is a little bit tricky. There are some NPCs I do need to kill without HP XP, mainly being the Slagalith, which I'm going to place my cannon here and then run to the safe spot with a pickaxe equipped. Funny story, you can have a pickaxe equipped and not even use it and still get the damage as full from any attack style. Even if I were to use like a mage spell and then switch into my pickaxe as the mage spell hit the Slagalith, then it would do full damage. If I was to shoot a crossbow with range and switch into the pickaxe as the projectile hit the Slagalith, then it would do full damage. As long as this pickaxe is just equipped, we're good. Another area was killing the dwarves. Unfortunately, you cannot set up a cannon in this area because you're too close to the dwarven stronghold and it gives you a game message that does not allow you to do this. Fortunately for us though, once again, Poison Dynamite has been brought into the game, so I can use my Poison Dynamite one at a time till I get a hit off on each of these dwarves, then sit here with Purple Sweets and recoil the rest of their HP. As long as I've done one true damage with that Poison Dynamite, the kill credit will count on those dwarves, and I can continue continue on into the one small favor quest. Finally, after going through countless small favors, not just one, we completed that quest and we got 2 10k reward XP lamps, which can only be used, by the way, on a 30 plus leveled skill, which we now have over 30 from Dragon Slayer in defense, and this puts us exactly to the T at 40 defense with 10 hit points, which is very hard to do on a low level 10 hit points account that could not yet access Soul Wars. Now at 10 hit points, 1 prayer, 40 defense, and 65 magic, this puts us almost exactly at 44.0 combat, which is going to be the lowest ever to complete this quest, and that's once again because we're 10 hit points instead of like 18. But before I can even start Lunar Diplomacy, I still have a couple more grinds to complete. First, I have to complete Lost City, which is going to be tricky because I cannot bring a cannon down to kill the tree spirit or get the axe, and my stats are not that great. I tried bringing poison dynamite down just to test on the zombies, and I couldn't even hit a zombie. So think of a tree spirit with 10 times the defense, and it's going to take even more than 1 poison to kill the tree spirit. Yeah, that's not looking like a good day. So what did I do instead? I scoured my countless accounts and tried to find one that I had here from literal years ago that had a cannon smuggled down here into this room. And how did it smuggle a cannon into this room? Well, I didn't want to do it again on this account, so let's just say it takes a long time and a lot of luck. If you smuggle a cannon on the top level of Entrana, you'll just get kicked out. So this had to have been done all on the underground level where the tree spirit and the zombies are. This was done by getting 2 accounts in the same random event and then trading over a cannon from the main world area which the other account entered on the random event, then have the account that entered from the Entrana dungeon, trade that other account for the cannon and accept the trade, finish the random, then end back up inside the Entrana dungeon. Now I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Rendi, why don't you just die inside of there, then die remotely with a cannon so it goes into your grave? Well, I tried that, it didn't work. Maybe it used to, I don't know. Anyways, the old random event smuggle would only work through very specific random events that had trade options and the inventory enabled, such as the Gravedigger random event where you actually have to utilize items in your inventory such as the coffins to put inside the graves. But yeah, luckily after 2 hours of searching through logins, I finally found this account and was able to bond it, making sure I did not log into F2P because that would send it to Lumbridge. I made sure and bonded it through the website, so then I would log into P2P with the cannonballs and cannon in my inventory, and then get the temporary use of the cannon traded over to my new account for the axe and the tree spirit kill. I know I probably could have traded over an axe from an account that just killed a zombie, but that's no fun. I want to kill it myself. So we have Lost City completed, Shiloh Village completed, 55 wood cutting, we have 61 crafting. Now all we're lacking is 60 mining, and I hate mining. So what did I do? I did the most AFK method possible. I went to Motherlode Mine, sat there and not even cashed in the deposits, just dropped them on the ground for a full 2 days while training my defense peer, and eventually there it was, 60 mining, and I could now start the Lunar Diplomacy quest and see how it went. Most of the Lunar Diplomacy quest was relatively easy and straightforward. I did have to kill a lot of Suquas for their leather and for different various items to the quest. I did this with a cannon. Luckily they are not immune to cannon like a lot of these other quest NPCs, and the area itself I could set up a cannon in. It's just funny to think about how no 10 HP has ever even had the possibility to do this quest, even though it seems so far that it is very possible, and cannoning these Suquas even is a Slayer task I believe you can get after you have this quest completed. So maybe it's a good task for cannoning at 10 HP, especially if I were to have prayer. This would be a very good task because it's in multi-combat. But yeah, that's not going to be anytime soon. Actually, I don't think I'll ever get prayer on this account because I don't really like prayer, I'm going to be honest with you. So I finally got inside the last portion of Lunar Diplomacy, which is really the tricky part to this quest, and that was where things got a little bit complicated. I did decide to bring a rune axe so I could out chop the woodcutting guy like crazy fast. Rather than him giving you, I think, a bronze or iron axe inside of the instance, you can bring your own and just beat him to it super quickly. But the real problem inside of the dream was the boss fight, and that's because I found out you have to go inside the dream with all your lunar equipment, and that includes your lunar ring. So you can't even wield a recoil, you can't unequip any items inside the dream, you can't use recoils as well, you cannot set up a cannon in this area. I did not know this because likely no one has ever tested this, because a 10 HP account has never likely even been here. So this is going to be tricky. This NPC also has a timed chat dialogue above his head. Now the wiki says he's not immune to poison or venom, but I really don't trust that because I've had so many bad experiences with wiki information in the past. I just don't trust that whatsoever, especially with this weird dialogue over his head. Now, weirdly enough, Jagex, whenever they changed poison about 6 months ago, did allow a lot of NPCs that were previously not poisonable, not venomable, to become poisonable on accident because of a new feature, and the chat dialogue no longer interrupted poison. But then they went back and changed some of these NPCs back to being immune to poison and venom, just to have consistency with what they have been at for 20 years. Now, if we're really unlucky here, they could have had the Lunar Diplomacy quest boss be immune to poison and venom, then unimmune him to poison and venom, then someone could have complained, and then they made him back immune to poison and venom. So we really need him not immune to poison and venom, or else I'm going to have to get a plethora of HP XP on this quest, which I do not want to get, because this boss has 45 hit points and I would have to just kill him outright, which is possible, but I want to save my hit points as much as possible. Luckily we did have access to poison dynamite, but after several attempts it didn't seem like he was getting hit, much less poisoned. I did hit him a few times without poison, and I just figured maybe I'm unlucky. So we went back to the Nightshades and picked up a whole inventory more for about half an hour and prepared for more attempts. At this point I was almost for sure that I was going to have to get hit points XP and pretty much ruin this account because it has perfect hit points experience. But as it turns out, after about our 10th attempt at killing this boss, poison decided to finally kick in, and surely enough I was just unlucky. Me is not immune to poison, and that makes sense because my account isn't immune to poison either. But either way, we're going to get this thing done with 204 hit points experience to spare, the maximum possible for an account like this. By the way, even after wasting all this poison dynamite and finally poisoning him, it's not over yet. I've actually died in the same boss fight before because he can combo you out and teleport to you and stack damage through his stall to where you can't even eat. So we kind of have to just get lucky and keep our HP high. So there we go, boss fight completed finally. This has been a journey and a half. I did not think it would take me over the course of 3 months on and off to get Lunar Diplomacy done at 44 combat, but we have done it, and we have done it with the first account at this combat and the first account with 10 HP, I believe. Not for sure on that, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Anyways, we have access to the Lunar Spellbook at, a whopping 44 combat and 10 HP. Eventually, I can get Vengeance on this account at 10 HP. No other 10 HPer is going to have Vengeance. That's pretty fucking cool in my opinion, and it speeds up a lot of things that you could otherwise use recoils for. You can, double Venge instanced areas such as fight caves, and I don't have to rely on someone Venge othering me at every possible moment in the uninstanced areas. So I'm really looking forward to possibly using this account in the future. I'm going to do some splashing on this, and as well I'm going to do some Soul Wars. And I talked about earlier how I didn't have -60 for a crush bonus, but I actually did. The Spined Helm, which can only be equipped after completing Fremennik Trials quest, which is once again a very unique perk of this account, can be equipped on my account, and it has -6 crush bonus. This, in combination with Berserker Necklace and any splash weapon like Flowers, puts me at -67 crush bonus, so I can splash with only 40 defense on this account by using that Spined Helmet. And I can even do this at a 3-tick speed with two-handed 3-tick weapons without hard leather shield slots, which would lower my crush bonus even more, even though I can't use these with these two-handed weapons with a weapon like the cards or a newly formed crossbow. And I'm going to be using this inside of Soul Wars to maybe get my stats up possibly further. So yes, I'm not going to stay at the lowest level Lunars combat account, but I'm going to be using this account possibly in the very distant future for other tasks as a 10 HP normal build. but one that can maybe use vengeance in the future, and one that can already check my farming patches. Wow, I know I can take a knee for a farming patch every now and then. So today's video experience was more of a casual one, but I do hope you enjoy it. More Defense Saga series and one-off videos are coming in the future, and very unique videos at that. That's all I'll say for now. Please subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy these videos, and that's it. Rendi out.